Hey, what's going on? Luke here, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do a video on this topic. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be remembering Shane Warne, the legend himself, Shane Keith Warne. Basically, I'm just going to one-take this, sort of talk off the top of my head. Yesterday, I woke up and saw the news actually from a text message from my sister, and she's someone who could not give a shit about cricket. Yeah, she knew who Shane Warne was, and that's probably the best way to sort of talk about Warney, was that he transcended cricket. He was predominantly a cricket star, but he transcended, cricket, really. He was an Australian icon, even a world icon. There's been lots of outpouring from the whole world, especially in like England and those sort of countries. But I think it's safe to say that Shane Warne's passing has brought up a lot of memories, not only for myself, but for a lot of people. So feel free to leave in the comment section below some of your favourite Shane Warne moments. Now for me, I was born in 1995. He was already playing Test cricket, playing one-day internationals. He was already in the middle of his career. So I sort of saw the back end of his career, and you could see the genius was there. You could see the genius going at work. Now, I'll be honest, one of the first memories I really have of Warney was actually the drug ban that he got for, I think he had a shoulder injury, and then he ended up taking something from his mum or whatever it was and got a 1-year suspension, missed the World Cup. So that's kind of like the first memory in my head, which I suppose isn't a good thing. But look, some of the other memories I have is, I still remember sitting at my cousin's place. Everyone else was having like a bit of like a get-together, a bit of a party, and I was there at like 10 years old, whatever it was, and I was sitting there and I was watching him try and take his 700th wicket, which he ended up getting, and I remember just being glued to the TV. And I'll be honest, I'm not like the biggest cricket fan. I'm like a laps fan, I would say. So, look, from time to time I watch when the Ashes are on, but back in the day when I was a kid, I played cricket, I loved cricket. So sort of around the time that he left, because I remember him, Gilchrist, I think Langer, Hayden, Glenn McGrath, they all retired at the same time. Pretty sure at the end of the Ashes. If I missed anyone, sorry, it's been a long time. It was 2007. But yeah, I still remember Warney on the hunt for his 700th wicket, and then when he finally got it, crowd erupted. Everybody who was there watching the TV erupted. It was such a big moment, and I feel like I can't really say that about too many other cricketers. Obviously, if you're a keen watcher, you can probably name moments that have happened. Like in recent years, as an adult, I can sort of remember, so like the Phil Hughes, I can remember them all getting centuries in the next game, and there's lots of stuff I can remember these days, but as a kid, it's the stuff that really stands out. And I will say, Shane Warne was not my favourite player. Brett Lee was my favourite player growing up, but at the same time, that whole bowling lineup, they were like your heroes growing up. If you played cricket and you were a bowler, you wanted to be like them. You had your Shane Warnes, you had your Brett Lees, Glenn McGrath, even your dudes like Andy Bickle and like Stuart Clark. Jason Gillespie was another one. Even like Stuart McGill couldn't even get in the side because of Shane Warne. There was so many good bowlers back in the day, and I feel like once they were retired, and especially Warney, like they were trying to replace them for years and years. For Shane Warne, he was almost too good, I'll say. Now, growing up watching Warney, I didn't really appreciate the leg spin. It wasn't until after he was gone that we saw other people try and come in and do it, and I was like, okay, so he was actually one of a kind. This guy was the out-and-out best, because they tried people for years and years and years. They tried to find someone. Nathan Lyon is the closest, and he doesn't even bowl the same type of spin. Shane Warne, one of a kind, really, on and off the field. Obviously got a lot of off-field controversy, but at the same time, I'm not going to delve into that too much. It's all out there. The documentary, I watched it last month. I think it's just called Warne. A great documentary. If you haven't seen it, go back and have a look at it, especially now with what's happened. I think it just really tells the story of a guy who never gave up. Like, he even goes into the documentary and says, like, I feel like cricket wasn't even really his first love or whatever. Like, he wanted to be an AFL player, couldn't make it, said he tried tennis, didn't make that, and then cricket was kind of like the third option, and he just happened to be pretty good at it, and then worked really hard. Sort of came through the ranks pretty quickly, went from being a bit of a nobody to a somebody very, very quickly, and yeah, obviously the rest is history with Warney. But yeah, I'm just talking about some of my memories. Obviously the 700th wicket was a big one, probably a big one for everybody who watched cricket back at the time. But like, even in terms of the Big Bash, I remember the first couple of years of him playing the Big Bash, playing for the Stars, and obviously a big one that goes around is the one where I think it was McCullum maybe. I can't remember who was actually bowling to, but he said, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get him out. And it's exactly what he did. And he's mic'd up, and apparently this is what he kind of did regularly. He'd say to the players around him that, I'm going to bowl this ball, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then he's going to do this and I'm going to get him out. And it happened more often than not from what I've heard with the stories over the last couple of days. So Yeah, look, Shane Warne, absolute freak. He gets talked about a lot with sports people, and you say, oh, what an absolute freak. But Shane Warne, definitely that. An absolute amazing player, but like I said, he did transcend just cricket. I mean, I said at the start of the video that the way I found out about Warney passing was waking up, like everybody else. We woke up, we looked at our phone, we saw Shane Warne dead at 52. I think that's what is the real sad part, is that he was only 52. He still had so much life to live. And I know you can sit here and say that Warney lived his life to the fullest, and that he lived a more exciting life than everyone else in a full life, but at the same time, he still had a lot of time left. He's got kids who are fairly young. They have a lot of their life to live, and now they're going to be living it without their dad. And it's also coming out that he may have suspected he had heart problems as well. So, look, it is quite a sad ending. Also sad to think that he was alone in the bedroom when he died, and, he had the cricket on the TV at the moment. Like, Australia is actually playing a test match, and nobody could give a shit. I feel like that was kind of how it always was, at least in terms of me watching, but for Australia, when they played in Australia, good time to watch because it was on at reasonable times. I don't really want to be getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever and watching games against Pakistan, that sort of stuff. So I guess that's why I'm a bit of a casual fan. But I feel like if there was ever a time to watch Test cricket, it was definitely around the time that Shane Warne played. Got to see the brilliance at work. And like I said, it wasn't just Warney that was killing it. There was a whole bunch of other players who were killing it. Basically, the whole bowling lineup are basically Australian Hall of Famers. So, look, it was a hell of a team, hell of a lineup. Shane Warne was right at the top of it. And I think when you talk about Australian cricket, you can't not talk about Shane Warne. Even down to his commentary days, he had some very hot takes, some very controversial hot takes, especially Stark this past summer. He ripped into a lot of players, some deserving, some not so deserving. But at the same time, he was on your screen, every summer, every year. You always saw Shane Warne on the screen. It wasn't like he just played his career and then got out of the spotlight. He dated Liz Hurley. Obviously, like I said, a lot of off-field controversy. But I think that's what made Shane Warne Shane Warne. That's what made him so lovable. Like, can you really think of any other people who sort of cheated on their wife, got caught a couple times, and is still so loved by the public? Sort of just put it down to, yeah, Shane Warne's a larrikin. That's exactly what he was. He was a larrikin. People have gone to his statue and they've laid down meat pies, cigarettes, and VB. And last night I definitely had a few VBs. I'm probably going to do a stream tonight, have a couple of VBs as well. Look, the dude even had a video game. That's probably actually my very first memory of Shane Warne, was getting the video game. Now, I believe it came out in 1999. I don't know if I got it in 1999 or 2000, 2001, but I remember playing the shit out of that. It was such a good game. I later found out that it was also released as Brian Lara cricket, but for me, it was always Shane Warne cricket. Played as the Australian side, played as Shane Keith Warne, trying to drop those leggies there, get a couple of wickets. Definitely using all the cheat codes. I remember there being heaps of cheat codes, but yeah, look, I think that sort of says a lot about Shane Warne, as well as name other players. I think Ricky Ponting had a game, and Shane Warne. That's about it. Brian Lara as well, but it's the same game. There's not too many people who get a video game named after them, and that was exactly what Shane Warne had. And I was sort of thinking as well, I was trying to think of, like, is there anything I can compare Shane Warne's death to? Because I was feeling so much emotion about a person I'd never even met, never would have thought of a moment about me, but I was so affected by it, and so many other people will like it. And it probably reminds me a bit of maybe when Kobe Bryant died. I think it's more to the fact, like, obviously, fantastic player. You have so many memories, and especially when they die too. Stuff like, honestly, like with Shane Warne, if you'd asked me to talk about him a couple of days ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to give you too many stories apart from the documentary. But going through it, and when the death happens, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I remember this, I remember this, I remember where I was when this happened. I feel like it's something about deaths that just do it. And I feel like that's why it's so emotional, because all of a sudden you start thinking about when you were a child, or when you were a kid, and when you were growing up, and you think about all the good memories of watching this sport. And then you take into account that they weren't very old. Like for me, I'm 26 at the moment. I'm not relatively old. I feel like there's probably some young viewers who are watching and are like, oh yeah, no, you're definitely old. But just in the grand scheme of things, like Shane Warne died at 52, and he is considered a pretty early death. Like, he's younger than my parents, and I feel like there's also that thing of like, oh shit, you just never know when it's going to happen. Same with Kobe Bryant. Obviously his daughter died as well. So there's just that loss of life, and you're like, all right, they had so much left to live for, and they'd already brought so much joy into the world, and there's so much left to live for as well. But look, with Shane Warne, he may be gone, but he definitely will not be forgotten. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of tributes that are better than mine. But look, Shane Warne, like I said, he wasn't my favourite player. Had plenty off-field controversy, but on the field, even in terms of just in commentary and as a father, it seems absolute legend of a bloke, legend on the field, legend off the field. There's so many stories that you're probably going to hear from all the players over the next year or so, even the next 50 years probably. They're going to be talking about Shane Warne and what he did for the game, and also what he probably did in his personal life. But yeah, look, I just wanted to point out the fact that my sister did text me and she was not a cricket fan, and I think that's a big one. You can look at that, and that sort of symbolises how big Shane Warne was. When I was saying that he transcended cricket, that's exactly what I meant. People who couldn't give a shit about cricket were like, wow, Shane Warne. I know who he is. I just saw him on I'm a Celebrity. He was such a good character. He was such a good entertainer. So not only was Shane Warne a great cricketer, but he was a great entertainer as well. He was fun to watch. There was a story, I think it was in the documentary, but he talks about trying to get someone out, and he sort of baited him into a shot by basically calling him boring and saying the crowd didn't come to see those shit shots. So he baited the guy into having a slog and got him out. So I feel like Warney did have some gamesmanship. He did care about what the crowd thought. And honestly, if there were more characters like Shane Warne, cricket probably would get talked about a lot more these days. So look, Shane Warne, he is going to be missed. I could probably talk forever about Shane Warne. There's so many things you can talk about. Just from, Kath and Kim, he was even on that. There was, all his deliveries, the flipper, the googly, all that sort of stuff. There's so many things you can talk about with Shane Warne, and I'm sure you're going to leave in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on Shane Warne? What are some memories of him? I kind of just rambled this video, but this is just what's going to happen. There's been lots of emotion the last couple of days with his passing, just because it was so unexpected, especially waking up to it too. Such a shit thing to wake up to, but it seems to be how the world is these days, just full of things like this. So, look, you had Rod Marsh day before, Shane Warne the next one, even down to him putting out a tweet probably a couple of hours before he passed. So, just very sad all around, sad for his family, sad for Australia. We lost an icon, we lost a legend, but like I said, he's gone, but he won't be forgotten. People to this day still talk about Phil Hughes, obviously different circumstances, but there's just some things that you're never going to forget, and I feel like we're not going to forget the day that Shane Warne died. It's going to be like Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin's probably a good one. I feel like I remember exactly where I saw that one. I was looking through the Sky News, checked the active, pressed the red button, and it came up. Steve Irwin died. I can tell you exactly what I was doing. I can tell you exactly what I was doing for Shane Warne. I think everybody can. We're waking up and we're checking our phones. So there you go. Look, it's not a video that I thought I'd be doing, and I don't know if it's a good video, don't know if it's a bad video, but these are just my thoughts on Shane Warne. Just thought I'd ramble a little bit. Thought I might have one-taked it, but stuffed up a few times. But hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. Feels weird to be saying that on a video about a guy passing away. But yeah, like I said, I'm not a cricket channel. I'm a rugby league channel. This is like the equivalent of like Jonathan Thurston or Andrew Johns or someone dying. Maybe like Cameron Smith. Like that's how big they were. And also you think of how big they were. Warney was 10 times, maybe 20 times bigger. He played in international sport. So yeah, Warney was loved everywhere, and we're going to miss Warney. We're going to miss seeing him on the TV for good and bad. But yeah, definitely going to miss him, and rest in peace, King of Spin.